Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Life and Legacy Show, sponsored by the Sechler Law Firm, where great families make great estate plans. My name is Tim Sechler. I am the owner of the Sechler Law Firm. I'm an estate planner. I'm a certified elder law attorney. And so what we do on this radio show, if you're new to the radio show, we're here putting out content pretty much every week on the things that I think you need to know in order to make a great estate plan. Okay. Um, the topic of today's show is avoid the interceptions, right? So it's football season here in Pittsburgh, which sometimes we do like the back to school episode, but let's forget that. Let's talk about football. So it's football season, which everybody's in this city in particular, things start to change, right? We start looking forward to Thursday nights and the weekends better. I happen to personally be a college football fan more than I follow the NFL. I follow the NFL, but I'm a transplant to this great city. And so I am a West Virginia fan, which can be a fairly unpopular thing to say around Pittsburgh, particularly now that West Virginia and Pitt are playing against each other again. West Virginia and Penn State are playing against each other this year. And so I'm super excited. I'm a West Virginia fan. I'm not all that optimistic about our season, though. And so I'll just try to enjoy the game without being tied to any huge outcomes, especially against Penn State. Pitt, we'll see. But Penn State, I'm not putting any money on West Virginia this year. So anyway, what we're going to do today, in the spirit of football season starting and all that excitement, we're going to talk about avoiding the interception. Meaning, when I talk to my clients about the things that they want to accomplish in their estate plan, everybody has a different way of like expressing what their goals and desires are. They may talk about their concerns, like losing, money to long-term care, to taxes. They may talk about like keeping the family dynamics intact. I don't want it to be a stressful situation for my kids. I don't want to be a burden on my family is a thing that I hear a lot. And, so what I thought we would do is talk about this a little bit. So, most people, what they seem to really want, especially like my retired clients, what everybody seems to kind of want is some notion of this. I've worked really hard to save some stuff. I did what they said. I penny saved is a penny earned. I saved money and built some home equity. I have a retirement account, maybe some other investments, a life insurance contract. So I've got this nest egg. And what I want to do is I want to enjoy my retirement. But when I pass away, if there's any leftovers, I want this stuff that I've worked hard to accumulate to get to my family. So I want my stuff to get to my family without any interference by things like nursing home care or taxes or probate or lawyers or any other things that can get in the way. Why can't I just get my stuff to my kids? And so what I want to talk about, like using the analogy for football, is okay. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to score, right? I mean, we're trying to get the ball to the receiver, the kids, so that they catch the ball, they score, and we have a good ending to the game, so to speak. And so then what are the things that get in our way? Who are the people trying to intercept the pass? Who's trying to tackle the quarterback? And how can we avoid some of these issues? And so before I get into some of the technical stuff that we're going to tie this together with, what I want to do is do a little disclaimer, right? So some of the things that I'm going to say today are legal and technical in nature. This is for your education. This is not for you to make legal decisions. You shouldn't make legal decisions based on what you hear on this or any other radio show. This is for your education, your information. If you have legal problems, you need to hire a lawyer, and we're available anytime at 724-546-4227. I'll do it again, 724-546-4227, or go to estateplantim.com. My name's Tim Sechler. The name of the law firm is Sechler Law Firm. Sechler is hard to spell. Tim is not. So just go to estateplantim.com and you can find our workshops where we sit down with folks for an hour and teach you these concepts, right? So you can ask questions. We're going to teach you the things like how to avoid probate. We're going to teach you things like the difference between revocable trust and irrevocable trust, and how you may be surprised to find out that middle-class folks should really be taking a look at irrevocable trusts as part of a comprehensive estate plan. I personally don't think that you should, it should all come down to which document you do. At our law firm, what we do is we just get you any document you need to accomplish your objectives. But it seems to me a lot of people who have some stuff and are concerned about it getting to the kids, well, we probably should use the right tool that's going to make sure that happens. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of things that get in the way. So here we are, we're dropping back, we're in our retirement, we want to pass it to the kids, we want to get the ball to our family, we want to get our nest egg to our family without any interceptions, right? You ask any football coach, and the key to winning the game is to win the turnover battle, right? So how do we not turn the ball over? How do we not give this stuff to creditors and predators? And so a couple of things that could get in the way. One is it's awful handy in most situations to avoid probate, right? So probate, like, let's consider it like this. Probate is kind of like handing the ball to the referee and letting them decide who wins the game. You know, it's to some extent. So technically what probate is the administration of the estate through the courthouse, right? So if you use a will as your primary estate planning document when you pass away, or if you don't have any estate plan put together, you're going to go through this estate administration process through the courthouse. It's commonly referred to as probate. That can take, in Pennsylvania, it's not uncommon for this stuff to take 14 to 16 months to unwind and finally get the stuff to the kids. So why does it take so long? Well, there's a number of reasons. Pennsylvania has an inheritance tax, which we'll cover in a little bit more, but the inheritance tax return isn't due until month 9, which means we're still collecting bills and paying things. And so at least 9 months out in most states, we haven't even, you know, we're still doing tax returns. Then it takes the state of Pennsylvania about 6 months to look at the darn thing. And they will finally say, yeah, we accept it or we don't accept it. But then now we're well over a year by the time they actually look at the thing. The other reason a probate takes forever is because in Pennsylvania, you know how you have to put notices in the paper. Like if you ever read a newspaper, there's death notices in the thing. The reason that we have to put notices in the paper is to let any of your would-be creditors, people that think you owe them money. If Tim owed somebody money when I pass away, they say, hey, Tim owed me some money. Then they file a claim against the estate, right? A creditor's claim, and then they can get paid from the estate. Now, creditors in Pennsylvania have 12 months to file the creditor claim after it's been put in the newspaper. 12 months, you know, that's pretty long. Other states, you know, it could be as short as 4 months that creditors have to come out of the woodwork. And it just goes to show you, like, this system is antiquated. Right. In the electric age, nobody's looking at newspapers anyway, not for death notices. It's not like your contractor that may assert that you owe them some money is sitting there watching the newspaper waiting for you to pass away. That's not how the world works anymore. But we still have this 12-month creditor right thing that we have to put stuff in a newspaper nobody's looking at. And so now they got 12 months to come out of the woodwork. And so here's the way the process goes, though. You know, our law firm helps executors administer estates. We're hired by the executor to do the job well and take care of creditor rights and pay taxes and eventually pay off all the debts and get the stuff to the kids. But if that's a 14-month process, you know, people don't understand this thing. And if the executor distributes money early, and then a creditor comes out of the woodwork, the executor is personally liable for having made what's called an at-risk distribution. So now the executor, who's just doing this on behalf of the family because dad asked him to, is going to get sued because they didn't properly look out for creditor rights. You know, and some of the hospitals around here don't even give us their bills until the 8th or 9th month. And so how can we distribute if we don't know what the final medical bills are going to be? You know, and so we have to advise our clients, yeah, look, you got 3 siblings. I understand there's 4 of you guys total. We could take dad's money he had and divide by 4 and we can do the math. But here's the thing. We don't know if there's creditor rights. We don't know if there's expenses. And if some creditor comes out of the woodwork at month 11 and we've already distributed the money to you and your siblings, you're going to personally be sued, and good luck getting the money back from your siblings, right? And so often we have to advise our clients, you better sit on some money here because you got some personal exposure. And, you know, so if that's the case, we're sitting on money. Like, it's not, you know, we're not working on this thing 40 hours a week for 14 months. We just have to follow this process. Right? Well, guess who starts calling the office at about month 9? Not my executor, not the child that's actually doing the work, the deceased person's child that's actually doing the work. It's the other kids. The other kids start calling the office. Hey, where's my money? Well, sir, you know, I'm not sure exactly what it's going to be yet because creditors could still file a claim. We file the inheritance tax return, but we're waiting on approval. You know, it's possible they say we owe them more money or whatever. So we can't make hey, I need my money. My brother is stealing. I know he's stealing. No, he's not, sir. We've got access to the checking account statements, and no, he's a son of a gun. And I've already hired a contractor to remodel the kitchen, and I need to write him the first check. And sir, that's not my problem. Listen, we have to follow the system. And now there's animosity between the kids because the process just takes forever. And the people who are entitled to an inheritance can't imagine it takes 14 or 15 months to distribute the inheritance, and all of this headache and all of this stress. When you talk about like not being a burden and keeping the family peace, it's often not that the kids are actually fighting. It's just that this process takes forever. And there's then suspicion grows that there's something going on that smells funny, and there isn't, but they think it is. And anyway, so all of this is one of the things that could really intercept the pass, so to speak. One of the things that could really keep us from scoring the touchdown is if probate and the stress and the headache of probate gets in the way. The related thing is what happens if the creditors do come out of the woodwork, right? So it could be the case that there are creditors that you're not aware of, or that you will incur in the future, right? Not existing creditors, but who knows in the future? Medical expenses, car accident creditors, whatever the case is. Well, if we could avoid creditors, then that's another thing that could take our assets. And so how do you do that? Well, you can't do that with a will, and you can't do that with a revocable trust, but we can use irrevocable trust to protect assets from potential future creditors that may occur as life comes at us. And so that's one of the reasons why we like to use asset protection trusts. In most of our estate plans, all of our plans, you do a will, you do powers of attorney, and a lot of our plans, we're also doing some trust work. In some of the assets, I really like to see in an irrevocable trust called an asset protection trust. And this is for middle-class folks. You don't have to be rich to use trusts. These are pretty handy tools. You just, you need to understand how they work a little bit, which is why we hold our estate planning workshops. It's called the three secrets to protect your legacy. And you learn all about this stuff, creditor rights, and how do we protect assets, and how do I make sure the stuff that I've worked really hard to get to save, how do I make sure that my stuff gets to my family without other people getting in the way? And to me, that just makes a ton of sense. Now, irrevocable trusts, if properly drafted, are outside of the reach of creditor claims, which means two things. One, if somebody in the future says that I owe them money when I pass away, and maybe I dispute it, well, creditors, if they can't get to the irrevocable trust, why not have some stuff in the irrevocable trust? Which means two things. One, the creditor can't get to it. But two, because creditors can't get to it, it's often possible for us to distribute the inheritance to your kids faster because we don't have to wait out the 12-week creditor rights period. The creditors can't get to it. We don't have to wait for creditors to file a claim. They can't get to it, right? So irrevocable trusts distribute the inheritance to the kids much, much faster than wills or revocable trusts distribute the money to the kids, because we don't have to sit on a creditor rights issue. Right. So that would be a great way to avoid a fumble, avoid an interception, win the turnover game. Right. And then we get to this concept of the nursing home. To me, the nursing home is a super big issue for a lot of folks. I do this. I started my law firm to solve this particular problem. Is I have people in my family, and I've got clients, and we meet people all the time going broke due to long-term care costs. And it's not even the care provider's problem. They're not the problem. They're providing care. Providing care is expensive, particularly in this market where you can't hire anybody. So the wages are going up for care providers, and God bless the people who still work in nursing homes after COVID. And so it's hard to get people to work in these places, which means the wages go up, which means the cost of care goes up. And all of a sudden we're in a situation where nursing homes cost $14,000, $15,000 a month in Pennsylvania. And 1 in 3 of us are going to have Alzheimer's disease. Well, 1 in 3 of us are going to have dementia, according to the Alzheimer's Association, right? And so you look at this and like, man, $15,000 a month, $180,000 a year, and I got a 1 in 3 chance of having dementia. Boy, maybe we ought to think about this a little bit. And so, what we like to do is we like to hold assets in the same trust I was just talking about a minute ago. I like asset protection trust because we can use this trust in a way that you can maintain control of your money, but not have it subject to Medicaid's crazy rules if you end up getting sick later. So, I can put my house in a trust. I still live in the house. But if I get sick later, the state can't have it. Yeah. That's the whole point, right? And so by using an asset protection trust, we protect your assets from your biggest financial threat you're probably going to face, at least in your retirement years, is what happens if I go to a nursing home. And so the whole idea is we use this thing to protect assets. And it just makes, to me, it just makes a ton of sense. So that would be a great way to avoid an interception. And that's the big one, right? I mean, what happens if I get sick? And, and it's not just about protecting it from who gets it when I pass away. Like, how do I make sure my kids get it? There's an awful lot of folks out there where married cases where one spouse goes in the nursing home, the other spouse is going to go broke, right? So forget about getting the stuff to the kids. Forget about completing the pass to the kids. Let's just say we want to accomplish a successful retirement, which looks an awful lot like, hey, if I get sick in our retirement years, my wife isn't broke, right? My wife still has a home to live in and some money in the bank. Because I'm here to tell you, the government healthcare system is not here for that. They're not here to look out for your spouse. Okay, they're here to get your money. That's the way that the rules work. If you go to the nursing home, it's private pay until you're broke. Well, I'm not interested in being broke. I'm particularly not interested in being broke if my wife is still alive for 20 years. I don't want to go broke when I'm 70 and my wife could live to 95. That doesn't make any sense to me. And so, yeah, if that means I got to put some stuff into a trust to protect it to make sure that my wife has a house to live in and some money in the bank, I'm using that trust all day long. I'm going to avoid the interception, right? And unfortunately, there's so many lawyers out there telling people, hey, you're not rich. All you need is a simple will. Hey, you're not rich. All you need is a simple will. Well, that's not true. That's not true. And it's misleading because it assumes that estate planning is only about who gets the stuff when you pass away. But that's not what estate planning is. I mean, that's a component of estate planning, but successful estate planning also makes sure that there is some stuff to get to the kids. It also makes sure that my wife has a place to live. It also ensures that if I've got disabled people in my family, we're going to take care of them. It also makes sure that we're being smart about taxes. That's estate planning. Where am I going to get my care? How am I going to pay for it? And how do I not go broke? That's a way more interesting question to me than who gets the stuff when I pass away. 8 out of 10 estate plans, equal shares to the kids. Got it. That's not the hard one. The hard one is, how do we make sure there's something left? That takes a little bit more work. And that's the stuff that we teach families every week, pretty much every week, at our 3 Secrets to Protect Your Legacy workshop. I just wholeheartedly believe most families are under planning, right? Oh, I got a will. Oh, great. What happens if you go to the nursing? Well, our guy didn't talk to us about that. Well, let's talk about it. Because I want to make sure that your version of your successful retirement, what you worked for 50 or 60 years to accumulate, I don't want to lose it to some broken government rule book that nobody's thought about in 50 years. Medicaid was set up in the 1960s. There's been minor adjustments over time, but this was a different time period. 1960s was a different time period. A lot of the people that got sick, one spouse wasn't working, and so then the daughter could take care of people. People didn't move as far away. The daughter was down the street. The son was down the street. Family caregivers were much more able to do this. Now we got everybody in Gen X, both spouses are working, and the kids can't take care of their parents the way the previous generations could. It's a different world. And so in a world 50 years ago where, hey, you're not rich, all you need is a simple will, I don't believe that's our world today. Our world is way more complicated, way more expensive. Long-term care in particular is way more expensive. We're living longer, right? We're living longer, but that doesn't mean the mind continues to work all that well. And it's just a different environment. And we need to respond to the reality that times have changed and the law hasn't, which means the law is not meant to meet today's needs. It's based on the 1960s. It's not based on 1920 or in 2023. And so let's plan for today's issues. And let's not use yesterday's tools to plan for today's issues. They don't work. So let's do some better planning. That's my take. That's that my entire law firm is built on the idea that you have worked hard for some stuff. You should keep it. Simple concept, but most people are failing this test. And so that's what we're here to do for you. And one more thing, one more potential interception that we need to be concerned about is what happens with the taxes? Like, am I going to get smoked with taxes? Well, turns out that there is no federal estate tax for middle-class families. By definition, middle-class families don't have to worry about federal death taxes. And federal death taxes were the ones that hit the hardest, like high 30% range, maybe 40% range. Those ones hit hit people really hard, right? Except that they really haven't mattered since George W. Bush was in office, because since GW was in office, we've had at least a $5 million exemption from this tax. And that's $5 million per individual, $10 million for a family. And it's increased over time. So right now it's sitting at $13 million that you can pass away with before any federal estate tax. And if you happen to have $13 million, that's fantastic. Yeah, we need to do some planning. But by definition, middle-class folks don't have to worry about this anymore. Now, Pennsylvania has a death tax. Pennsylvania's death tax is 4.5% if you leave stuff to your kids, right? So if you've got kids and that's where the money's going, it's a 4.5% tax. So what? Look, if Johnny's going to inherit $100,000, he can take $95,500. We're not going to rearrange your world to save your kid 4.5% of some unknown number at some unknown date in the future. I mean, let's get real. We're here to do practical planning. I hate the inheritance tax. But it's kind of like a mosquito in the backyard, right? You know, I don't want the mosquito to land on me. I don't want the mosquito to bite me, but I'm also not going to run across the backyard like a crazy person trying to avoid it. And so, you know, the inheritance tax is kind of like the mosquito in the backyard. It's not, it may take a chunk, 4.5 points, but you know what? So be it. Now, if you don't have kids and you're leaving money to more distant people, you know, your siblings are 12%, nieces and nephews, friends, neighbors, significant others to whom you're not married, that's a 15% tax. Now, at 15 points, maybe we want to take some action to avoid the thing and avoid this interception. And so, you know, we get together and we chat with you about your options. But, you know, if it means I've got to give up control of my money to save my niece 15%, a lot of people aren't going to do that, right? So, and so, you know, the general idea is we need to do some planning. You need to do some planning. It's not just going to work itself out, right? Don't do that. It'll be okay and work itself out plan. You love your family more than that. Let's get a little bit of a structure around this thing. Let's make sure that the money you worked for decades to accumulate isn't lost to some foolish mistake, because you can avoid these mistakes. It is possible to get your stuff to the kids, get it to them fast, avoid the headache, keep the family peace, not lose it all to the tax guys, not lose it all to the nursing home. It is possible to end this game well, but we got to have a game plan, right? Because if all we do is play backyard football and you know, a lot of people are going to throw interceptions. We have to have a better plan than that. And that's what we teach you at our 3 Secrets to Protect Your Legacy workshop. So if you go to sechlerlawfirm.com, or I'll make it easy on you, go to estateplantim.com and you'll go to the workshops tab. You schedule for the free workshop. Now, let me tell you about the workshop. It's only about an hour, maybe a couple of minutes longer than an hour. And we're going to teach you the difference between revocable trust and irrevocable trust, and our philosophy on why you ought to take a look at these things, and why I think a lot of attorneys are wrong about this stuff. And then we're going to offer if you'd like to move forward and work with us, but we're not going to ask you to get out your credit card. This is truly a no cost event. It's great information. We get great reviews on this thing. I mean, usually 5 out of 5 for everybody in the room. They all tell us, hey, we learned a ton. Thanks for doing this. And so, you know, my take on it, and the reason we do the workshops and the reason I do this radio show, is my thought has always been, people don't know this stuff. And unfortunately, if you know, what I see in my office is families going broke. And it's like, it just hurts, because I know that there could have been some things done a few years ago that would have completely prevented this pain without much cost. But families just don't take the opportunity to do it because they don't understand it. And so, okay, we got to do a radio show, and okay, we got to do workshops around town to teach the people the stuff that they need to know. And then, yeah, they're probably going to decide to work with our law firm because we do a really nice job. But at least we've given them the education. And they decide not to work with our law firm, they want to go with the person that's not going to plan for this stuff. Hey, they made an informed decision, you know. But I'm happy to give you the education. You got to register, though. We're on wait lists with a lot of these workshops because this message has been really well received. Lots of people are interested in what we have to say. So go to sechlerlawfirm.com or estateplantim.com. and register for one of our upcoming workshops, which we offer like all around the Pittsburgh region. And we're going to get you the information you need. But remember, don't make any decisions based on this radio show or any other radio show. This is for your education. This is not legal advice. I would love to be your lawyer, but I'm not yet. So don't make decisions on this. We need to analyze your situation and give you some good advice. I hope to see you at the upcoming workshop. And just like one little thing I got to say before I get off the radio show this week is let's go Mountaineers. All right, everybody have a great week. Enjoy the football games. We'll talk soon.